From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. We've got pressing stories to get to, but first, let's take a quick look at the headlines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sacks the head of his personal security. Now, this comes just days after Kyiv foiled a Russian plot to assassinate the Ukrainian president. The Philippines call for the expulsion of some Chinese diplomats over allegations of a leaked audio clip of a Filipino admiral. Manila accuses Beijing of targeted disinformation. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to visit Japan later this month, where he'll meet Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Riyadh is a major oil supplier to Tokyo and owns a sizable stake in Japanese gaming company Nintendo. Australia to hold a parliamentary inquiry into the negative impacts of social media platforms. Canberra says these platforms have significant control over what Australians see online without any scrutiny. And the United Nations Food Agency says 4 million people face food insecurity in Haiti. Over 80,000 children suffer from acute malnutrition in the capital city of Port-au-Prince as gangs prevent delivery of food aid. We begin in the Middle East, where Israel conducted airstrikes on Rafah after ceasefire talks in Egypt ended without a deal. Now hundreds of Israeli tanks and armored vehicles encircled the Gaza city as the ground invasion intensifies. Now Israel has ignored warnings from its closest ally, the United States, over the military operation. And U.S. President Joe Biden has repeatedly warned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu against launching the Rafah invasion. In fact, President Biden took the unusual step to halt all weapons delivery to Israel over its military offensive. But Prime Minister Netanyahu has ignored these warnings and has decided to continue with the invasion, risking further diplomatic isolation of Israel. And Netanyahu shot back at the move, saying Israel had all the weapons it needed and would even fight with just fingernails.
We are on the eve of Independence Day. In the War of Independence 76 years ago, we were the few against the many. We did not have weapons. There was an arms embargo on Israel. But with great strength of spirit, heroism, and unity among us, we were victorious. Today, we are much stronger. We are determined and we are united in order to defeat our enemies and those who want to destroy us. If we need to stand alone, we will stand alone. I have said that if necessary, we will fight with our fingernails. But we have much more than fingernails, and with that same strength of spirit, with God's help, together we'll win.
Now, despite facing protests at home, Prime Minister Netanyahu's war cabinet appears to be supporting their leader regarding the Rafah invasion.
We have no choice. We have no other country. We will do whatever is necessary. And I repeat, whatever is necessary in order to defend the citizens of Israel, to remove the evil threats against us, and to stand up to those who attempt to destroy us.
However, despite the bravado and bluster, former members of the Israeli armed forces are worried about not receiving weapons from the United States, which could become a security concern for Israel if the war drags on or spreads across the region.
We'll have to make a decision, and here the flow of munition from the United States of America is very important for the capabilities of the IDF in this operation. For the operation in Rafah, which is not so complicated as the one in Lebanon, I think that we have enough munition at the moment. I don't see any substitute to the United States of America at the moment, but it is clear for us that we are going to invest a lot of money to be better positioned to produce for ourselves in the future what we need.
Israel claims that its troops are engaging Hamas in fierce gun battles every day, and they've uncovered 10 Hamas tunnel shafts in the Gazan city of Rafah. Meanwhile, UN officials estimate the fighting has already forced the displacement of almost 100,000 Palestinians. And now patients and medical staff are also being forced out of hospitals across Rafah as Israel's bombardment intensifies. As Israel pushes for what they are calling as the liberation of Rafah, Hamas says they have regrouped in the north and are now active beyond just Rafah. With Israel continuing its war plans and sidelining Washington, it's clear Netanyahu is prepared to go it alone. Isolated at home and abroad, the Prime Minister is now truly a man apart. And here in the United States, tech giant Apple has apologized for its latest advertisement that stirred a massive controversy. The company unveiled its latest generation iPad Pro earlier this week, and its commercial showed symbols of creativity like musical instruments, books, and an arcade video game being crushed by a giant hydraulic press, followed by Apple's new and shiny iPad Pro being revealed. The controversial ad was shared by Apple CEO Tim Cook on social media, and he said the new iPad Pro is Apple's thinnest product ever. However, he immediately received backlash, not for the product's design, but for its ignorant advertisement. Internet users claim the ad celebrates the destruction of creativity and art amid the rise of technology. And some users called the commercial heartbreaking, uncomfortable, and egotistic. The tech giant was also called out for disrespecting the creative tools and mocking their creators and those working in creative fields. The controversial ad generated fury amongst many celebrities who saw it as a vivid and literal illustration of big tech laying waste to culture. Actor Hugh Grant said the video represented the destruction of the human experience. Now, Apple's Vice President of Marketing Communications says his company missed the mark with the video and that they are in fact sorry. He added, and I quote, "Creativity is in our DNA at Apple. Our goal is to always celebrate the myriad of ways users express themselves and bring their ideas to life through iPad," end quote. Now, reports say Apple no longer plans to run the commercial on television, but while the tech giant has acknowledged its mistake, the ad still remains available on platforms including YouTube and X, gaining millions of viewers and large volumes of criticism. Staying in the United States, latest reports show that Donald Trump is desperate to raise money for his reelection campaign, and this time it's at the cost of the environment. The former president reportedly dangled a lucrative deal in front of America's top oil bosses last month. Donald Trump met at least 20 oil executives at his Mar-a-Lago mansion in Florida. The Republican Party's presumptive nominee promised to tear up President Biden's climate regulations if reelected. In fact, Donald Trump tried to sweeten the deal by promising American oil companies more drilling rights in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of Alaska. The ex-president reportedly promised to do this on the very first day of taking office if elected. And not stopping there, Trump also said he'd undo the Biden administration's policy designed to reduce emissions from vehicles. Now, everything comes at a price. This is Donald Trump we're talking about. And the ex-president pinned the cost at $1 billion each if the oil giants wanted more drilling rights and easier emission norms. Reports say that Donald Trump told the oil executives that they were wealthy enough to give him $1 billion each. And it's not just the oil giants that Trump is targeting as the coffers run dry. He's also reportedly agreed to take cryptocurrencies as campaign donations. The Trump campaign has struggled this election cycle with an already enormous burn rate, with so much money going towards his mounting legal fees and big dollar donors not giving as freely as Trump had hoped. Donald Trump's campaign currently has over $93 million in reserves, less than half of what President Biden's campaign has, which is nearly $200 million on hand. Clearly, the court battles, which fueled his candidacy during the primary, are now becoming a political crutch for Trump in the general election. And the ex-president has been emphatic with the claims that the court cases are preventing him from campaigning, where he could be meeting potential donors and funders.
Pretty much everybody saw what happened today. I don't think we have to do any explaining. I'm not allowed to anyway, because this judge is corrupt. He's a corrupt judge. This judge, what he did and what his ruling was, is a disgrace. Everybody saw what happened today. He's a corrupt judge and he's totally conflicted. And I got to get back on the campaign trail. I'm not supposed to be here.
Now, Donald Trump's close relations to the oil industry and his disdain towards climate change go back years. His latest attempts to woo industry executives show that Donald Trump will do whatever big oil wants just to secure a potential second term. In contrast, President Biden has taken more actions than any administration in American history to bolster clean energy and greater public health. However, for Donald Trump, everything is transactional. No surprise, considering he is the author of the bestseller, The Art of the Deal. And moving to South America, Venezuela has reached a grim milestone in the struggle against climate change. Once home to 6 glaciers, Venezuela has likely become the first country to lose all of its glaciers in modern history. Scientists have downgraded Venezuela's last glacier to an ice field. And so how exactly did climate change melt the Venezuelan ice caps? Our next report takes you inside this alarming development.
The South American nation of Venezuela has become a stark reminder of the threat from global warming. In a grim milestone, scientists have downgraded its last glacier to an ice field. This has potentially made Venezuela the first country to lose all of its glaciers in modern history. Venezuela had been home to 6 glaciers spanning a total area of 1,000 square kilometers. But 5 of these glaciers had disappeared by 2011, leaving the Humboldt Glacier, also known as La Corona, all alone. Scientists say this glacier was projected to last at least another decade. However, new assessments have found that Humboldt melted much faster than expected. In its heyday, the glacier covered 4.5 square kilometers, but it has now shrunk to less than 0.02 square kilometers. This is roughly equal to the area of 2 football pitches. Now, the International Cryosphere Climate Initiative, a scientific advocacy organization, says that Venezuela's only glacier has become too small to be classed as a glacier. While there's no global standard for the body of ice to be classified as a glacier, a commonly accepted guideline is around 0.1 square kilometers. So how did the South American country lose its glacier so soon? According to climate experts, Venezuela has seen abnormally high temperatures in recent years. The country also sits closer to the equator and has relatively low-lying mountains, which made the ice caps more susceptible to global warming. In December last year, the Venezuelan government announced a project to save its only glacier. It involved covering the remaining ice with a thermal blanket in the hope of insulating and protecting it. However, the move received backlash from local climate scientists who warned that the project could contaminate the ecosystem as the fabric would break down into microplastics over time. Now, researchers say the Humboldt Glacier did not contain enough ice to raise sea levels. But in some regions, glaciers play a crucial role in providing communities with fresh water. And if they melt, humans will have to rely purely on spot rainfall. Scientists have predicted that the world will lose up to 80% of its glaciers by the year 2100. Nations in Asia and Europe may be next in line to become glacier-free. But for South America, Venezuela is a mirror of what's likely going to happen to the icy glaciers. As Colombia, Ecuador, Peru and Bolivia also witness the shrinking of their ice rivers and glaciers continue to retreat from the Andes mountain range, What will it take for the world to become serious about climate change?
And our final story is from West Africa. There's a rural town in Nigeria called Igbo-Ora, which has proclaimed itself the twin capital of the world. The birth rate of twins in this town is more than double the global average. And not only are twins revered as deities, but locals say they have a special twin-producing potion. Our final report gets you all the details about Nigeria's very own twin town.
Ever wondered what a trip to Nigeria might look like? Picture yourself immersed in its multi-ethnic tapestry, indulging in lip-smacking cuisine or admiring people walking around with a flair for fashion. Nigeria is the epitome of West African allure. But wait, there's more. Nigeria also boasts a self-declared twin capital. There's a town called Igbo-Ora where the twins outnumber singletons by a landslide. Upon setting foot in this twintastic town, prepare to be surrounded by doppelgangers at every turn. Your chauffeur? Likely a twin. Your hotel hosts? Well, they're probably twins. Even the local guides might come in pairs. And don't be surprised if the jewelry vendor you encounter is a twin mom. In Igbo-Ora, twinning isn't just a trend, it's practically a way of life. With twin birth rates soaring to dizzying heights, this quaint enclave is like a twin factory on steroids. While the global average for twin births hovers around 12 per 1,000 births, Igbo-Ora boasts an eye-popping 45 per 1,000 births. Twins are so common here that the community's traditions are now highly influenced by it. The older twin, irrespective of the gender, is called Taiwo, which means the one that tests the world, while the younger one is called Kehinde, which means the one that came after. So how does the twinning happen? Locals swear by their secret twin-inducing recipe, a concoction called ilasa. It's brewed from a mix of local herbs and mystical ingredients. The dish is made up of okra leaves, spinach-like leaves, locust beans, melon seeds, salt, spices and water. Move over, Hogwarts, because there's a new potion master in town. As for the science behind this twinning spree, experts are scratching their heads faster than a cat at a scratching post. Is it the local cuisine, the mystical yams, or just good old-fashioned genetics? The jury's still out, but one thing's for sure, Igbo-Ora is the twin town that keeps on giving. Now, only a minority of the twins born in Igbo-Ora are identical. This means one egg is fertilized and then divides. The majority of them are non-identical, which means multiple eggs are released and fertilized at the same time. In this twin-centric universe, twins are revered like demigods. They are showered with gifts and worshipped as bearers of fortune and protection. People even worship twin gods in the community. They offer them palm wine and beans, and the town even hosts an annual international festival to celebrate twins. So the next time you consider a trip to Nigeria, brace yourself for a journey that's twice as nice, twice as fascinating, and twice as twintastic. After all, in Igbo-Ora, twinning isn't just a phenomenon, it's a way of life.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We certainly thank you for being with us. We hope you have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next week. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating